As promised, joining me in studio and to kick off the show, we have Shawn Fluharty here. Shawn, good morning. How you doing?
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Great to see you. Haven't seen you in a while, and thought it'd be good to get you in as we were talking to Fuzz. I know you've been on with Steve a little bit, but have not come on with us, and thought it'd be a good idea to pick your brain a little bit for our listeners.
It's been a while.
Yeah, it has. So let's get it going here. First off, tell the listeners a little bit about yourself, where you came from, grew up. I think that's always important for any candidate to know. I know it's important to me when I go in the ballot box. I want to know where somebody comes from.
Oh, absolutely. Attorney here in Wheeling, graduated from West Virginia University, went there for undergrad as well as law school. And we're just talking about the transition to law schools in the middle of right now, which is really
impressive.
It's really impressive, and it's going to turn into one of the top law schools in the country, and it's on its way. And I grew up, I'm the son of an electrician here in Wheeling and a teacher's aide for special needs children, and come from your typical Ohio County background, middle class, hardworking parents. That's how I was raised, and been trying to imitate them with my life and how I approach my personal life as well as my professional life. Work hard, and I've been an avid follower and fan of politics for a very long time.
Right.
Ever since West Virginia Boys State back in the day, which a lot of students in this area have gone to. I've always had the idea that I would one day step into political office because I feel like I'd be great at serving the public. And I interned in legislature previously back in the 78th legislative session as a student from WVU. It was a great experience, got to see how politics works firsthand down there. And as I looked around the rooms, I thought, I can do this. So here I am at it again.
Well, let me ask you in that respect. You've been on the ballot now a couple times.
Yes.
Name recognition you have out there. What have you learned from the past elections and campaigns that you've been involved in versus the one now?
This one has a different feel to it because there aren't as many national issues being brought up. A lot of times you'll see the national politics trickle down into the local races. That hasn't been taking place this time around. It has a really different feel to it. I think people are actually focused on the local issues more so this time around than in the past. And a lot of it has to do with the Marcellus Shale issues now that are really at the forefront for everybody. Regardless of political party, regardless of your job, everybody's concerned about it. So that has really brought the local races up the scale a little bit compared to in the past.
So you got the voters are more honed in on the local issues.
They are.
And to some people that may be surprising. We talked on the show here before that you see some of the national ads where they try to tie people to the president, particularly Democrats, and some situations like that. But you're not hearing that when you're going door to door here.
No, in the past that definitely was the case, but not so much this time around.
So you mentioned oil and gas. What are you hearing? The specific either concerns or positive things that you're hearing from the constituents?
Well, I think everybody has a concern on two levels. They're concerned environmentally, where are we going with it, and economically. What's the economic situation? Are we profiting as much from it as we should be? And the quick answer to that is no, we are not. If you look at the severance tax in the state, it's way too low. The effective rate's 3.5%, the statutory rate's 5%. Other states that have drilling Marcellus Shale, it's much higher. So we're not profiting like we should be. We're not getting the bottom line. The number is not there. But they're also concerned environmentally because, as you see now, the attempt to drill under the Ohio River, people are concerned about.
Right.
People are concerned about when I bring up these issues to them. The way we dispose of the waste, the fracking waste in this state, we have nothing on the books that really protects the citizens. In Pennsylvania, they have protections on the books. If there's high radioactive levels when they go to dispose of the waste, it triggers an alarm and it gets disposed of in a separate area. Well, that separate area now is Bridgeport, West Virginia, because we don't have those protections in place. And it's really shocking to me that we haven't. That should be something that should have been addressed originally when the Marcellus Shale issue was really at the forefront. So now we're already behind the 8 ball and we're reactive to the situation instead of proactive, just like we were with the coal industry.
How about in terms of roads, still a major complaint? Are you hearing that as much?
I am. In fact, I was speaking to a woman over in the Woodsdale area the other day who works for I think it's the Public Safety Commission possibly, and she was telling me about how we're going to be in for a real awakening this winter because the funding's not there to hire drivers because all the oil and gas companies are taking up all the guys with CDL licenses. So they're going to be short-staffed this winter when the storms hit.
To clear the roads?
Clear the roads.
Salt the roads?
Not just dealing with the infrastructure side of things, but just clearing the roads. And we're going to be in a real awakening going forward in the winter because we're not going to have the staff properly there to maintain the roads because they're taking all the guys from us, and we're not able, because we're underfunded, we're not able to pay them a competitive salary.
You're listening to Shawn Fluharty, candidate for the West Virginia 3rd Delegate District. That should be the House of Representatives 3rd Delegate District here in West Virginia. And Shawn, we were talking a little bit about what you're hearing door to door, and we're talking about oil and gas being probably the number one issue. What other positive, negative things you're hearing from constituents when you're knocking on the door?
Well, I think they are positive when it comes to me. I mean, they like that I'm there, and they like my background, and they know that I'm hardworking and been at this now. And a lot of people recognize me when I'm there, which is a good thing. That's always half the battle.
Right.
Hi, I'm Shawn Fluharty, and they look
Right.
at me and say, "Oh yeah, I know you. All right, well that's great. I'm halfway there now." And everybody in the area is positive. I mean, I don't think our area is necessarily representative of the rest of the state. Ohio County, we have a much more educated area than a lot of the parts of the state, although that's a huge issue still statewide because perception is reality, and that's something we have to work on in our state. But no, it's been very positive this time around, and I think people really are honed in on local issues.
And welcome Big Dog to the show. How you doing, John?
A little late.
That's okay. We won't give you a tardy slip too much.
Do we have traffic now in Wheeling? Is that a new
Actually,
thing?
I was coming from Martins Ferry, so.
I was talking to Shawn, though, and as you were walking in, about obviously his experiences in the past, things that he's learned in terms of legislature, how it works. Obviously, going to school, having the background of being an attorney, which I think is very helpful when you're talking about reading legislation, Shawn, understanding the impacts of it. John, what do you think is kind of the number one thing that you're hearing or question that you have for Shawn?
Well, I think what he said is, I think the Marcellus Shale has really played into Ohio County. As it starts, we see more wells being drilled. Those are issues: environmental, revenue, roads, infrastructure. Those issues become so important. And I always say it's the haves and have-nots. And the people, right where Fuzzy and I live, there's 10 or 12 new millionaires. Hey, they deserve it, okay? Those were farmers that were there. They had something that somebody wanted. They're entitled to that money.
Right.
I think more people are concerned about getting fair share of tax value.
Absolutely.
I mean, I think that's in Marshall, in Ohio, where you see a real abundance of drilling, and we're just getting the top layer of it off. We're going to see more and more prices go up. That people's got to be concerned about that. And I think for Shawn, the fact is, he's been on the ballot. I think people understand there's values, and I think if you look at this election this time, and you look at who suits somebody's beliefs, he has an excellent chance. Those people that voted for him before, I believe we're going to vote for him again, okay? And I think that chances are that as people look and say, who's going to do a better job in Charleston for me, I think that's the issue that he brings to the table, that he's been there, has done that, understands the system to do that. And I think the other thing he said is Ohio County is different, and it's different politically, it's different education-wise. He makes an excellent point. But I think at the end of the day, this election, these next 2 years are going to determine how much money Ohio County is going to get.
Absolutely.
Whether we're going to be able to do it to Highlands, or is the state going to divvy up their fair share to make an interchange to make that the next level of the Highlands, whether it's small manufacturing or be able to do things. I think we've outgrew that interchanges, outgrew the amount of traffic, so we're going to do those things. So I think this election, this cycle of 2 years for Ohio County, there's really issues that have a lot of impact.
Hearing those issues, Shawn, on the trail?
Absolutely, because not everybody is a landowner.
Right.
Not everybody has benefited yet. So I think the average person in Ohio County is concerned, okay, what am I going to get out of this?
Right.
I hear these stories, which at this point are nothing more than a fairy tale because they haven't seen any gains. The only thing they've seen are more trucks on the roads, a crumbling infrastructure, and no tax revenue coming in that they've been told they're going to receive. And when I look at somebody and say, ma'am, the purse on your shoulder, you paid a higher tax rate for the sales tax than Chesapeake did drilling Marcellus Shale out of our backyards, they look at me in disgust and they're shocked by it. But they have to know these things.
But that's real. That's happening today.
That's real, and that's an accurate, factual statement.
Right.
But it's shocking, and I think it takes somebody like myself to be down there, proactive, and stand up. And if you look at who supports me, I'm not supported by the oil and gas industry, that's for sure. And I don't look to be supported by certain groups because I'm my own person. I don't want to be a candidate that feels like he has to please everybody. I'm my own person. I have my own views. I do my own factual background checks, and I do the homework. I had a guy the other day, which may be the best compliment I've had thus far on the trail. He listens to WKKX. He knows I've been on here before. He watched when I was on the West Liberty station during the primaries, and he was like, I like everybody in your race, but you're the only person I trust with the issues because I feel like you know the most about them. And that's why I try to be in public as much as I can. Name recognition does help, but I'm still not extremely well known in the area, and I have to differentiate myself from the rest the people participating in this race, because I have to show that I know more and I've done my homework. So that's why I go on the radio as much as I can. That's why I get brushed up on the issues. And you're running for public office, you need to be able to be a public person and be able to answer questions in public.
Well, we've talked before on the show about, budgets are problematic for the state. And when you talk about how you replace revenue, sometimes it's very difficult. And, we always complain a lot, I think, on the show that it comes back on, the average person, Jane or Joe, who's struggling to make ends meet a lot of times. And when you look at sometimes what we have declining severance tax from coal, in a natural place, obviously, that people are looking is the oil and gas industry. But the contrary point to that is that you're going to hear is that, you're going to stifle business if you do that from the oil and gas industry. So what's your response to somebody, first off, who's going to say, are you against oil and gas? And I suspect I know the answer to that.
Absolutely not.
No. Right? But people like to take words and twist it. And then number two, how about when they bring up a statement like that of, well, and you see it in Ohio too, if you attempt to increase the severance tax whatsoever, either state, there's an explosion on the other side where they say you can't do that, you're going to stifle development.
It's not going to stifle development. There's no, give me any facts that say that an increase in the severance tax is going to absolutely stifle development. There's no evidence of that whatsoever. These companies are making billions of dollars. And the problem I have with it is, that is capitalism. Capitalism, we have a commodity. The commodity is the gas under the ground. And we as a state, as the government running the state, have the ability to negotiate a severance tax rate that is part of capitalism. We're offering the good up, and here's what you're going to pay to take the good from us. And when you're making billions in revenue, there's no argument for them. They're not going to go. The gas isn't going anywhere, and neither are these companies. It's foolish for people to think that. And I'd love to see a CEO of one of these companies who's making billions of dollars sit down on the other side of this table and say, we're not going to be able to drill under your land if you raise that severance tax from the effective rate of 3.5%. Meanwhile, the sales tax is 6 or 6.5%. Meanwhile, the statutory rate's at 5, but because we give them tax incentives, it comes down to 3.5%.
The effective rate's 3.
The effective rate's 3.5%. It's just far too low. It was far too low from the beginning. What they're taking issue with is you started at a lower rate, now you're just going to punish us because you see how much we're making off of this. It's not punishing you, it's getting it to the point where this is where it should have been to begin with, and that's just pure capitalism. Well,
Shawn, we got a couple minutes here before the bottom of the hour, and for our listeners, we got Jack Serra coming up, who is District 96 in the state of Ohio, House of Representatives. We're going to interview him. But Shawn Fluharty, candidate for West Virginia House 3rd Delegate District, I want to give you the last say on why people should vote for you, and when they go into the ballot box here, what is it, November 4th.
Early voting starts next week.
So
22nd.
Registration ended. So, people of Ohio County, by the way, your district encompasses almost all of Ohio County with the exception of...
But it does encompass virtually all of Ohio County. It cuts off around the West Liberty area, some parts of Mozart, and it doesn't include any of Marshall County to my knowledge. It doesn't. So it encompasses virtually all of Ohio County. I think it cuts off close to Fuzz. Yeah, Fuzz helped me on the last campaign a lot, and he's still a big help for me, but he can't even vote for me, so
that's true help there.
This is the first time I can vote for him.
Right. But for those people who are within the district, now that we generally define the boundaries, why should they vote for you?
They should vote for me because it's time for a new voice down there in Charleston. It's time for somebody who does their homework, who's not afraid to say what's on their mind, and actually stands for something. I know it's now the way politics works now, you're not allowed to have an opinion on anything, and that baffles my mind. I have an opinion on lots of things, and some people like it, some people don't, but I think it gets respect from the other side of the aisle. It gets respect from people who may not even agree with me. And at the end of the day, you want somebody that you can respect down there, and you want somebody that knows what they're doing. With my background, I know what I'm doing, and I'm a hardworking guy from a hardworking family, and I think I'd represent this area very well.
Shawn, we know you're a busy guy between obviously your job, right, and then obviously the campaign trail, and I know I've talked to folks, they've seen you around working it hard. We really appreciate you taking the time to come in and visit with us, and especially sit next to Fuzz and Big Dog. If you're sitting in between them, you're a pretty good guy, so we do appreciate you taking the time to do it.
Appreciate it, guys.
And not that you need it, but it never hurts. Best of luck to you, okay?
Thank you.
Take care. Good luck, Shawn.
That was Shawn Fluharty, candidate for West Virginia 3rd Delegate District here in the great state of West Virginia.